one thing you're going to hear a lot of in the lead up to the referendum is outrage from the opposition about the apparent lack of detail in the Indigenous Voice to Parliament. And on the face of it, I actually totally get it, because that was my initial reaction too. I even wrote a post about it. The more time I've had to consider it though and reflect on it, I've realised that this is very much by design. Albanese recognised that any changes to the Constitution or making any changes is an incredibly precarious venture and shouldn't be done lightly, because once you have anything in the Constitution, removing it would take years and another referendum to do. So what Albanese has ultimately done is he's asking the Australian people whether there should be an Indigenous voice to Parliament. He's leaving it to the Parliament to decide what that voice will look like and how it will function and what format it will take. It means the format can change, it can evolve, it can adapt to be whatever we want it to be. Albanese recognises that he's building something new and unprecedented, and the first iteration of it will likely be imperfect. But Peter Dutton, for all his criticisms, he can change it. If he wins government, he can bring it to an election and he can turn it into absolutely anything he wants it to be if he has the votes in Parliament. Which raises the inevitable question. If you could create the Indigenous voice to Parliament with legislation, why have a referendum? Why not just legislate and create one? Good question. 123 years ago, as the great minds that authored our Constitution gathered to develop the framework of our democracy, a mistake was made. No one asked the Indigenous inhabitants of this land if they wanted to join our new nation. They weren't consulted on how our new parliamentary democracy should function, and no one seemed to consider how they should be represented in our government. They weren't even mentioned, and most of them couldn't even vote. The Australian Constitution, for all its virtues, was imposed upon Indigenous Australia. Now, it's so easy for white Australians to perpetually tell Indigenous Australians, look, there's no use looking backwards, we can't change the past, let's just look forward. This is one of those very rare opportunities we have to right a wrong. The referendum is an opportunity to recognise a glaring omission in our founding documents. That this land wasn't empty when we got here. That sovereignty was never ceded by the original inhabitants. And that our system of government, as good as it is, it's still a relic of colonial conquest. Recognising those facts will cost us nothing, but it does provide a genuine opportunity at reconciliation, because it makes our Constitution a new document, which for the first time in our nation's history will recognise Indigenous Australians. It means our Constitution is no longer just this historical document written by a bunch of old white British men in 1900. It's a document which has been refined and amended by the Australians of 2023, all Australians. Now, no matter what the opposition tell you over the next few months, there is absolutely no harm that can come to us if we vote yes here. Because no matter how powerful or impotent the voice is, how it will function, how it is elected, how it expresses its voice, can be changed with a single vote in Parliament. But if we vote no, I fear that we may irreversibly miss the greatest opportunity our generation will get to heal the original sin of this country. Voting yes won't right all the wrongs our nation has imposed upon Indigenous Australians. It won't even come close. But it rights the very first wrong. And as far as I'm concerned, that seems like a pretty good place to start.